Hello, everyone. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. Today I'm with Michelle, and she's going to tell you all about what she can do for you. Take it away, Michelle.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for asking me to join you today. I was watching one of the other recordings that you had previously with another person, and what an opportunity to get to share some really great information, right? And so I just thank you for inviting me to spend a few minutes with you and with the people out there in technology and social media
I
world.
know. Isn't this the way where we're headed?
Well, and it's just the wave of the future, right? You've got to grow and adapt and evolve into this arena because this is where we get most of our valuable information now.
Mm.
So I am Michelle Walker. I am started the Walker Home Loan Team. I've been a loan officer. Well, I started the Walker Home Loan Team in about 2021, right after COVID. But I've worked as a team. I've had a team for a very long time. I just kind of branded myself at that point. Been doing loans here in the Valley for 24 years. I can
Wow.
remember the date.
Been
I
in the
started
business a
December
while.
28th, 1999.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So, and it was one of those decisions that I had made after, some economic events in my life. And, my world got flipped on its head. And I was a single mother of four children and decided I need to get into a career where I could control my finances and I
Hmm.
can control how much money I made. And I was very nervous about
Oh,
becoming,
I understand that
um,
being in real estate, those commission
yeah, a
books.
commission based income.
Mhm.
I'm like, and I had my salary job but life is about there's what is that saying? There is no reward without risk,
Right.
right? And I figured, well, I had just enough belief in myself, but I had a lot more belief in those children and what they needed to believe than I did in actual believing that I could be a successful commission based or salesperson, right?
Right.
Anyway, so I did it, and that's when I joined the wonderful world of mortgage loan officer world. Yeah. So,
It
you know,
forces you to be really good at your job though when it's so much writing on it. So you probably grew. I mean, that learning curve is exponential in the beginning and you probably grew and just really learned your trade and really
well,
just
and I did, yeah. It's one of those, Linda. It's kind of one of those things where the rubber meets the road kind of deals, right? So, I really thought about keeping my job, my salary job, and then doing loan officer work and training and getting started in the business in the evenings. But I had four children. That
sure.
was really there was no time for me to do both activities as some people do real estate and their jobs the part-time or whatever. But if I was really going to give this thing a shot, I had to give it my all, right? So I just did.
And you have
And
to keep up with all the laws and all the changes that's going on in the lending industry. So even though you started way back then, I bet it's very different now than what it was back in
Oh,
2015.
yeah. There was no licensing. We got to pick our appraisers. There was no regulatory. I mean, and for the most part, I'm really glad about the regulations and the laws. I do think that they're meant to serve and protect people.
Right.
And do I think that the government has a bigger hand in this than they should? Yes, of course. But I
But
do
you're able to
understand.
protect your clients better this way because,
Yeah.
there are some unscrupulous characters out there that I know I see that in
Yeah,
real
you're
estate,
exactly
and it's
right.
like, until you make me part of your transaction, I can't protect you from some of them that, kind of
That's right.
cuts corners. So, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's
And
the
what a
same way
way
as
to
a lender.
hold, yeah, what a way to hold people in our profession to a level of accountability,
Right.
right? So, and I believe in life, everybody needs to be held to a level of accountability. And especially when it comes to, America's finances and their privacy and and knowing that the person that they're putting themselves in the hands of is protecting them.
Hmm.
So was it something that we had to get used to? Of course. When the law changes, life changes. So I said, what do you mean I have to have a license to do this job?
Hmm.
2010 comes or 2008, and this starts going into play. And then 10 comes and I have to take this test on a job that I had been doing for a decade. And it was a little different. I can honestly tell you I did not pass that test the first not two, but three times I took it because it was on specific, information. Anyway, I
Well,
could
and
get
I
into.
try to explain that to all these people that want to be realtors, thinking it's so easy,
Oh,
and I'll help anybody, but in the same respect, what they have to understand is number one, being a realtor is not easy, and I'm sure lending officer is not easier too. But what the state has decided to test us on has nothing to do with our actual job. That's the
no,
funny
ten
part. It's
percent of
all
the
just
test was
terms
on.
and memory and what does this mean and what does that mean? And I had to be quite honest, haven't heard the majority of those words in my career as a realtor.
No, Reg Z, Reg B, TRID, RESPA. They have all these acronyms and
Yeah,
different
what's
terms
the
so that we
acronym
can.
for this? Who cares?
Yeah, no, my borrower's never going to ask me that question.
No.
But yeah, but that's that level of accountability and compliance that we have to be held to in regards to matters of people's personal finances. And so, yeah, learning all that because, like I was going to say, 10% of that whole test was on mortgage application.
Hmm.
So, and borrower, requirements. So, having, took it a little more seriously at that point. I got to be honest with you. It wasn't just for everybody, and what it did, and for all intents and purposes, what it was supposed to do. It took out people that weren't serious about their jobs. It
Hmm.
changed the industry as we know it, and you had to, you know, um, you had to really be, ethical and moral,
Ethical. Yeah.
and you had to be your character, and I remember doing a loan back in the early 2000s during the height of the boom, and where everybody was, they were lending to Labradors. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
So, and there was this particular situation where I knew this person didn't qualify for the home that they were buying. And I was not going to be the loan officer, no matter how much money it was going to make me at that moment. I was not going to be the loan officer that put that gentleman into a home that he, I know on paper he didn't qualify for.
Hmm.
And because it was stated this and stated that. Now, I get that there should be a level of stated income, stated asset programs for the self-employed people, for people who generally, have those kinds of situations where self-employment wouldn't on paper otherwise qualify people. But on
Right.
this particular situation, the employment type and income in that field of work was never going to match what they could, and he was trying to buy upwards of a $600,000-700,000 house
And way
on,
back then, wow.
right, when houses were so much cheaper.
Live in
So
reality here, buddy.
yeah. And so, one of those things, it's, that person actually got very angry and upset. But I knew like I was acting out of good character and integrity. And I was okay with that he chose another loan officer because that's just kind of how, the Walker team models our business here. And that's the way I've always done it because I've seen the ebb and the flow of this market and
Yeah,
how much
because it wasn't too
character
long
and
after that that the
integrity.
market blew up.
Yeah. How much character and integrity sells more than the actual loan? The loan will sell itself.
Hmm.
Loans do themselves pretty much. We have people in places that help us do that. But my job and what we do and what we practice here is about character, integrity, honesty, transparency, and good communication.
Yes.
Those are my 5 founding factors on the way that I do business with my realtor partners, with my clients, and how I mentor other loan officers. I have 2 junior loan officers under me right now that I mentor.
Hmm.
And if I can teach them anything about being their best versions of themselves, being the best loan officer they can be, it's not about what loans I can sell, what type, what government rates are, what types of loan I have this program or I have that program. What I can tell them about building a business in this industry is that the matters of importance are in the relationships.
Hmm.
They are in the people that you deal with because they will never remember what you're selling or why you know what I mean, or what you did for them. They're going to remember how you made them feel.
Right. Very true. Very
They
true.
are going to remember how you made them feel. Was I important? Did I get communicated to? Was I told the truth? Was I told all the information? Were there surprises all the time? Really at the end of the day, nobody wants a surprise. Now, we're not perfect. We are human, you know, and sometimes not every sometimes things get missed or something gets miscommunicated, and it's going to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
if we practice those spiritual principles of, that transparency and that good communication, I think that's a better lesson for me to mentor to my junior loan officers, and what has ultimately resonated itself in the learning experiences I've had throughout the years in this business is
Sure.
that I wanted to be, in early years, I wanted to be this gung ho. I know every product. I got the best rates. Can do this. I can do that. And people didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't care, especially my realtor partners. Every loan officer was trying to sell themselves on what programs they had or what rates they had to offer. And of course, that stuff matters because you want to be able to, be competitive, but we all get our rates from the same swimming hole. It's about how you sell them and what people qualify for, and
Yeah.
telling the truth about
And how
what
well they're
they
going to
qualify
work
for.
with you, and how, like you said, how well are you going to communicate to where they understand? Because it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's one of the biggest financial decisions somebody's going to make. You really kind of need to understand, what it is that's going on. And I like that. Of course, I had 8 children, so I like that teaching aspect of guiding them and teaching them. And oh heck, all my kids can probably outbuy me at this point. They're all very, most of them have their masters, some have their doctors. So my kids were very smart, but I like that aspect of it. But at some point they surpassed me. So,
right. And
but
as they should. That's your
yeah,
hope,
as they
right?
should. But my
As they
clients, I think,
should.
have kind of become my children and my teaching experience and here, let me guide you through this. Let me tell you how to do this. Let me walk you through that part that you're not quite understanding. But one thing they do need to understand, and it's happened in your industry, laws are changing. Laws are constantly changing. So even though maybe we did that a year ago or 5 years ago, it's going to be completely different this time through. So okay, maybe I sold you a house, whatever, 5 years ago, but it's a different process now, and you
It
have to
is.
stay up on that in our industries. So that's
And
really
speaking of
important.
that too, that's a good point that you make there, Linda. And the evolution of our business and the laws and the regulatory aspects or anything like that. It's if you had to, just like in life as well as in business, we want to teach the best character and moral principles to our children, but we want to be able to define that and who we are to our clients and to our relationships, to our partners, and to because you're right, it is the biggest financial decision that people make in their lives,
Hmm.
and the honesty factor in what we do, and and the evolution of what's going on, like more to the point, the current situation in our industry with the we were just discussing, before, is the NAR settlement and the
Yeah.
fact that there's a level of greater seriousness when it comes to buyers agents and representing their clients,
Hmm.
right? And the
True.
clients
That's
don't
coming.
some of the clients don't seem to understand that, how that's working in their benefit. Sometimes they choose to see the more like I'm being controlled and this is what I have to do side, rather than,
It's
by the way,
protection. It's
this
more
is making
protection
me
for
do
you.
my due diligence as a buyer's agent. Now, I'm not a real estate agent, and I won't speak on real estate practices, but I can tell, I know, I work in an office. We are at Western Pioneer, we are a real estate and financial company. So
Hmm.
I get to work directly with agents who express to me those differences that they're seeing in regards to that particular. But just like anything else in our world, where I have to practice a level of humility
Hmm.
to be able to learn. I am not, just because I have 24 years in this business doesn't mean that I've arrived, that I know it all. I have to practice a level of humility, just like my clients do, my partners do, that I have so much to learn, because there's always, like you said, things are always changing.
Always
So
changing, and
I
every
have to be
client's
humble enough,
life is
yeah,
different from one another. So maybe there's something that came up that, wow, I
yeah.
haven't had to deal with this one before. Let's
Right. And so
figure
if I
this
tell
one
my
out.
client, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to have to look it up. They're like, huh? What do you mean? You're such a seasoned veteran in this business. Well, no, because I always tell people that the guidelines are changing, the rules are changing. I want to make sure I have all of your information correct, especially if it comes to something that may be a little out of the box
Right.
or a credit issue or an income issue. Um, the way that they calculate income or the way that they review credit changes all the time too in our back end. So, people don't understand it's never going to stay the same in regards to qualifying for mortgages today. So there's where that humility comes in, and I tell them, okay, well, I always have to check the guidelines because I may be wrong in that information, and I want to say, yeah, I know, I've been doing this forever. That's how we do it. Get them into contract, and then you're like, tell them, oh, you know what, that changed, and I probably should have looked that up before, but I didn't because I wanted to be prideful or I wanted my ego to show that, don't you know who I am? I've been doing this for so long. That's just never, ever a way to go in life or in business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that there's a lot of that, and I just posted a video not too long ago on social media about that. It's like the most, the more trust, you will get more trust and respect and understanding from somebody, the more honest you are about how much you don't
Right.
know.
Right. That is so true. And that's where I think a lot of clients don't understand there's different levels of pre-approvals, and not one pre-approval is going to fit for every house that a realtor might send you. And we as once we get on the team, right? As you, the lender, and me as the realtor, we almost become symbiotic. And sometimes, I'm on the phone with you, you guys, in the evening or over the weekend going, hey, they want to see
Yes.
this house, but I'm not sure it's going to fit within whatever they're pre-approved for. This is what's going on with the house. Is that going to work with their particular loan? Because, they usually kind of come with instructions a lot of times on these pre-approvals, that
Yes.
whatever they need, a seller's credit, or they need this or they need that. And a lot of times we become very symbiotic, and I can't do my job without you, and you can't do your job. You can't get it into contract without me. So we have to really be a good communicator, and a lot of those questions have to be answered. And my point to this is there's different levels of pre-approval. There's the pre-qual where they called and said, kind of like we were talking before, they stated what was going on in their life, whether it's true or not, and whether they can back it up with paperwork or not. That's a prequel.
It
You
is.
talk to the lender, and the lender said, yeah, it should work, but does it really give the realtor any
Maybe.
information? You know? And when we
Yeah.
see those come through as a realtor, we're going, oh no, we need more than this. We're on the phone going, no, 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 no. We need full instructions on what type of home can they get into? Will it be FHA approved? Can we get by with a conventional? So my point is there's different levels, and the next one would be just strictly pre-approval. Maybe they've turned in their paperwork, but it hasn't went through the underwriters yet. And then you've got your pre-approval that's went totally through underwriters. We are literally waiting on trying to get a house procured for them and
Right.
get them into it. Those are the ones I like because those come with full instructions. I know what I'm doing. I can get out there and track down that whatever, one or two or three homes that might work for this particular loan, and, help them get that one procured and over to you. And you're like, yes, so there's different levels that we as a team will go through just trying to get them into a home. I don't think a lot of buyers understand how much work other people are putting into it for them. And I think
Right.
that's a good point to make, that you've done your due diligence. You've worked really hard to make sure that I know what it is I'm looking. I've looked really hard to find those, however many homes that fit within the parameters of the instructions you've given me. So it becomes very symbiotic at some point, and they have to be serious buyers. You're going to have to be respectful of our time. And if you're just out there looky-looing, well,
100%.
that's what these new changes are for NARS kind of coming about. You have to be a serious buyer within the next 3 months, in order to get this team to go in and be full diligence for you. So I
Right.
think
And let me tell you a little bit about the importance of, like you were mentioning, the pre-qual versus pre-approval versus ready to go.
mhm,
Right. So A, to me, a good loan officer does not issue a pre-approval letter on a pre-qual ever,
Mhm.
ever, ever, ever.
Well, I
That's
would
just
agree with
general.
that one on the real estate
That's just
side,
general
but I see a lot
information.
of them.
Somebody's, yeah, some, there is, there's, be surprised. There is a lot of, but that's, you know what I mean? Some lessons are learned the hard way,
Mhm.
right? And I don't ever want that to be at a client's or a consumer's expense or a realtor, a real estate agent's reputation, right? So here we are, when you talk about the relationship between loan officer and realtor being symbiotic, that is absolutely true. As cohesively as we are supposed to work together, there's a model match for business on how you do your business, right? So, Linda, you are grade A top, like you want professionalism 100%. That's the way any real estate professional should be, right? So, you're going to align yourself with somebody that thinks the way that you think about getting people into homes and the level of integrity and expectation that you expect out of your business. Well, we do the same here. You know, the Walker Homeland team, that's how I train my team, that's how I am. Like, I know you have to base what you're doing through the ebb and flow of each market that I've seen. There's times when there's just such low hanging fruit that you're just grabbing and grabbing and grabbing. You know, there's booms that, you know, you don't, you're just getting pre-approvals, but you're getting all documentation. And, but no matter the time nor the period, low hanging fruit, tough markets, whatever's going on, there's a due diligence that we have to have when it comes to performance and expectations and timelines and close of escrow dates that are so important that if I'm not doing the job I'm supposed to be doing for my real estate partners and for my clients by meeting those timelines and those expected dates, then I'm not making you shine. I'm not giving that client a great opportunity at having a top-notch experience, a buying experience. Why would I try to build my business around doing anything less than letting everybody have the best experience they can have? If I do that job correctly by gathering all client documents, going through all credit report circumstances, all income, either variable income or full-time income or missed days of work or leave of absences or crossing all those I's, dotting all those T's, economic events, divorces, bankruptcies, foreclosures, deed in lieu's, like absolutely crossing off. And there's nothing going to stop us because I need to once again check my guidelines to make sure everything's good. How do I do that? By getting those pre-approved clients, the ones that are not vanilla, barefoot, run through the meadow borrowers,
Mhm.
into an underwriting process. So all I need at the time when they start shopping, not as they shop, when they start shopping, that all I need for them to close and give them maybe even a 14-day close of escrow because they need that to be competitive
Mhm.
is having them ready, underwritten. All I need is the contract
Right.
and
And
we're
one
good to
thing
go.
you might point out too is you're just the face of it. There's a whole team behind you.
Oh, is there?
You know, they're called underwriters and they're scrutinizing all this paperwork that you've gathered for them. And so if you call your client back and say, I need this paperwork, it's not you personally. Don't take it personal. It's that's the
That's one of
team
the first
behind
things I
you.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the team behind you. They need to see this in order to whatever, verify that or whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
So
it's
you're setting proper expectations all the time, you know, but for you, for realtors and for clients, you know, because at the end of the day, if we take our time in the very beginning of the process before we send someone shopping and tell them, even if they've seen a house that they love, oh, I need to make an offer on this right away, but there's something on the profile that says, oh, maybe we should just take a minute and take a look at this. You know, the truth always at the end of the day will make somebody appreciate how hard you work for them because they don't want to get into something that they're just going to have to pull teeth and go through hoops and everybody's going to be stressed out and you know there's no reason to do any of that. So you know at the very beginning on my long consultations with my clients, it's so important to set those expectations up front, right? We don't just send out pre-approval letters upon having a credit report or pre-qual letters. We don't do that. We want to put the whole package together and make sure that there's nothing that's going to stop us from having a great experience. What is that going to allow you, someone like you, Linda, to do? If you're not worried about what your loan officer is doing. And she's got that under control. She's got the client under complete control. She's got the transaction and the pre-approval. You're going to be able to get out there and do more business.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be able to do what you do best and go get more business because you're not micromanaging what your loan officer is doing.
Right. And
Right.
that is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Not
And what
having
is
to
that
call you
client going to
every
be able
five
to
minutes
do?
going,
Right.
what
And
about
then
this? What about that? It's already right there.
it's right there. It's right there. So don't worry, I got this from here. Go do what you need to do. And
Mhm.
then with that client, just telling him, listen, he who has the money makes the rules. We
Right.
don't tell you, we don't ever ask you for anything that the banks are not, are telling us to get from you. So it's never, hey, Michelle Walker needs this document. No, the bank, the lending institution,
Lending
the
institute.
underwriters, the investors, whatever it is.
You have multiple loan products. It's not just
Yeah,
the bank
they
backs
need this
you.
stuff to secure.
Yeah.
Remember, you're borrowing their money,
Mm-hmm.
right? This
So
is their
true.
money. It's not, and I always tell people too, clients all the time, I tell them, listen, if it was your money, would you make sure they qualified for it?
That's a very good point. Very good
If
point.
it was your money, if you were lending somebody $400,000, wouldn't you want to make sure by all means necessary, without a doubt, beyond a risk, just like in a court of law, beyond a reasonable doubt, that that money's going to get paid back to you? You would do that because it's your money. Well, it's their money. There's people, these banks are holding or have withholdings from this person, and it is your money, by the way. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know that, but there's a small segment of it that belongs to
Exactly.
you that these banks are lending to you, but you
Yeah,
have quite a part in
foreclosures
that.
affect all of us. Some
Yes,
people look
right. They're
forward to
taking
them, but mhm.
your deposits are the money that they're lending, by the way. So just so you
Yeah,
know.
that's
Um,
what determines their interest rate that you got in your savings account. Whoops.
so, and to put it, I go, so just put yourself in that mindset. Like, if so don't think that we're going to ask you for things that aren't needed, even though it feels like we're asking for the same thing twice. It's because they want to make sure beyond a reasonable doubt, without any questions, that that money is going to get paid back to them.
And that's
And
where
you're
those
going to be
guidelines
grateful for
come
that.
in. Yeah. And we have
Yeah.
our guidelines just like you have your guidelines. So everybody, we're trying to look out for you and we're trying to make sure that you've got the best representation and we're going to
Right.
meet with some success. That's the whole bottom line there. So do you have like
Well,
a
it levels
website or
it levels that piece of stress or unanswered questions,
unanswered
because
questions?
this,
Yeah.
yeah, when we go to the doctor, we go to the doctor because they're the expert,
Mm,
right? To find out what's wrong with us. And now I tell that to all of them. It's like, will you come to a loan officer because this is a job that you don't know how to do and I'm the expert. So when I want to make sure that you know why I ask for these things and how important they are to what we're doing. It's not, you have to trust the information that I'm giving you. And so when you do that, when you explain things to people in a very real way that makes them settle down a little bit, take
yeah.
a few breaths, and they're like, okay, I'll
Well,
do whatever you need
how do
me
they
to
get
do.
a hold of you, Michelle? How do they get a hold of you and get over there and get